We influence others and are influenced by the people and other things. And we're not always in control of our influence. The pro athlete says, I don't want to be a role model for kids. Too late, fella. You already are. Who influences you? Parents, teachers, friends, co-workers, church friends, TV, celebrities, Facebook. Who do you influence? How? And to what end? I want to paraphrase this quote. In bathrooms, boardrooms, buses, bagel shops, and everywhere else, we all need to imagine a little girl or boy following us around, repeating everything we say and everything we do. Think about all these things you want for your daughters and sons, granddaughters and grandsons, and girls and boys everywhere, and then teach them by living it yourself. Influence in my life came from many, many friends as I grew up in Medill, as most of you know. Primary, of course, was my mother, who was a devout, God-fearing woman, and she took me to church every time the doors were opened from the time I can remember. She influenced us growing up, and evidently she influenced my dad. He did not become a Christian until he was 65 years old. And that's a very special thing for me. So I understand influence. I had some other very good influence growing up in a small town and a small church. Teachers who told me to go to college and use my good mind, and church friends who provided activities for us as we grew up. And so in that time, in that era of simple living, I'd like to replicate that for some of us as we have raised our children, and as our children raise our grandchildren. Everything that they meet influences them, but the influence of godly parents and godly friends and godly church friends are most beneficial. They make the difference between life and death.
You know, the two factors that determine who we are as people are genetics and environment. Genetics we have absolutely no control over, and environment, you know, we for the first few years of our life we don't have any control over that really. But then as we grow into adulthood, then we do have some control over what influences us and what does not. But even at a young age, I was influenced by godly people. God blessed me with older men in that little congregation in Valley View, and men in the community and in the family that impacted my life. Was having a great impact on my life that I didn't even realize it was having. Godly women as well. I had godly people in my life when I was young, and you know, did those people get up every day and say, well, we're going to make a good impression on Billy today? Well, of course not. They went about doing good, serving their families, serving the church, serving the community, and you know, that impacted my life. The way seeing my dad and others like him serve in the way that they did. Did I have influences that were not positive? Well, of course I did. You know, we all do, like everyone else. I had those and didn't. And you know, did they influence me for bad? Well, Yes, at times they did. You know, there was always those times when I struggled with not doing the right thing, knowing to do the right thing, but not necessarily doing the right thing. As believers, as Christians, and as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, we're called to a higher calling. We're called to be a holy people. Well, I think it's simply that we must make a decision every day. Are we going to let God lead our lives, or we're going to let Satan? And Satan is a powerful force. The forces of evil are powerful, and we can be easily deceived. So you know, we have to decide we were going to be influenced by good people, or by people that do not have, you know, they're not godly people, they're not good people, and with good influence. Well, ultimately, our influence for good will be determined by the example we set in regards to staying true to our commitments, being true to those who love us and are committed to us, and being committed and true to those people. That's going to really what determines our influence. I would like to have an influence on my grandchildren, both my grandsons and my granddaughters, that men leading through serving is what leadership is all about. Serving and giving as opposed to control and getting. Both in the home, in the marriage, in the church. If I can just leave an influence for good on my grandchildren, to have better insight as to what true leadership is, then I'll be pleased.